not prepared!
Welcome to another Top 5 with Kris 5, guys. We still have 2 more weeks of the Sunken City meta, so in this video I will tell you what are the best decks right now, as well as what are all of the working archetypes for each individual class. So stick around to the end. Hope you enjoy the video, and if you find what I'm doing helpful, drop a like and subscribe to the channel. And also don't forget you can hire me for some Hearthstone coaching. Before we get into the video, I want to say a huge thank you to today's video's sponsor, Opera GX, the browser for gamers. Opera GX offers features for gamers which you will not be able to find anywhere else. You have your GX control corner, which helps you fine-tune your browser from the sliders here, so you can keep all of your tabs open while gaming and not experience any FPS drops due to your browser hogging up your resources. You also have a network limiter, which works in a similar way, and that way you won't be experiencing lag due to your browser. The integrated social media panel is also super cool, and this way I can switch through my Twitch, my Twitter, my Discord with just a single click, but you can also add some of your other favorite social medias through the sidebar customization. From the GX player, you can use your favorite music streaming service directly from the sidebar. What I love about this sidebar is you're gonna know exactly where your music is coming from. But also, if you start playing a video while you're listening to something from here, it is gonna automatically stop it for you. And then resume after you're finished. Neat! For me, one of the coolest features this browser has is forcing dark mode on all pages. Check out how cool HS Replay looks when you have it in black. You can also use Opera GX on your phone with the new GX Mobile. And you can even connect it to your desktop version, and that way you get to start watching something on your computer and continue from your phone if you need to. So what are you waiting for? Use my link in the description and get Opera GX today. So the first deck on the list is gonna be Control Murloc Shaman. Control Murloc Shaman remains pretty disgusting, and you guys have seen this deck plenty of times already. It's still running the School Piranha package, you have your Bolner with the Murlocs so you can cheat out a ton of stats super early and super consistently, or you can do nasty stuff like eat your opponent's crucial minions with several mutinous battle cries repeat one after the other, and also with the Brilliant Macaw. You could also board lock your opponent with some Snowfall Guardians, and all around be a pretty annoying opponent to play against. Your boards tend to be pretty wide, and that is why you run a single copy of Bloodlust as well, so you can do some surprise lethals for the opponent if they're not careful. You also have a couple of school teachers in here, which more often than not also can give you something like Bioluminescence and another spell to combo it with, so that's another pretty devastating way to close out games for you, especially if you double the battle cries from the school teacher. And you also have Frostbite, which can also go face, so a single Bioluminescence can be something like 10 plus damage. Matchup wise, from Diamond to Legend, this is what it looks like, and Curse Warlock is surprisingly a bad matchup for you, but also Quest Priest can be pretty annoying because they tend to have a lot of board clears and whatnot, and their health is quite high too. And also Ping Mage and Beast Hunter are under 50 as well. Mulligan wise, going first, this is what it looks like. You're gonna want your Schooling, Bolner, Sleetbreaker, Firemaster Flurgle makes a lot of sense against board-centric matchups, Cookie to Cook as well, Clownfish is also pretty important, and you can even keep Brucon in certain matchups as well. Wildpaw Caverns also makes the cut, but after that, the win rate kinda plummets, so this is where the breakpoint happens. Honestly, Snowfall Guardian might also make sense if you know you are playing against a board-centric matchup. When on the coin, again, Schooling is at the top as well as Cookie. I really don't think Bloodlust should be this high, like what the hell is that even? Wildpaw Caverns still good, Brucon still good, Clownfish pretty decent, not sure about Mutinous being that good of a keep. I'd much rather keep something like a Gorlock Ravager instead of Mutinous because that's Mutinous and then some. Sleetbreaker is still pretty decent, and Bolner can also make the cut. Frostbite can also be a decent keep in certain cases if you're expecting a free health core minion from the opponent and they're also spell heavy. For other good Shaman decks, we have Murloc Shaman being still pretty decent, even though it can be a pretty hit and miss kind of deck. It still has its moments. And we also have Burn Shaman still with an acceptable win rate too, but the rest is iteration of these three. On the numbers 2 spot, we still have Boat Rogue, which for some reason it's called Thief Rogue again in HS Replay. It's literally the exact same list Boat Rogue used to be. But yeah, Boat Rogue is still pretty good, despite all of the 40 health decks out there. You are gonna have a little bit of a harder time getting across that finish line, but you have a Connie in here, which really helps you stall out the opponent in the early turns, and if you already manage to cheat out something like a couple of Gnolls or even an Asheron Vessel early, a turn 4 Akani can be absolutely devastating for the opponent, especially if you play play it smart. The rest of the deck is basically the same. It's a 29 card core list, with Akani being the card people usually switch up. But honestly, in the current meta, I'm not sure what would be a better card than Akani right now. Even though it's a neutral card and it does mess up your Gnoll discount sometimes, it's still pretty important, and it's gonna be giving you more value than not most of the time. If you want to learn more about this deck, you can literally check out my old Boat Rogue guide and still get a pretty good idea of what you can be pulling off with this deck. For the matchup, Beast Druid apparently is a deck again, and that would be a little bit under 50. Beast Hunter and Face Hunter are also just a little bit shy from 50 as well. Paladins would really mess you up, and also Mind Rogues tend to be a little bit too quick. But if you're smart about Reconnaissance and actually get a little bit lucky with it too, you should have no problem with Mind Rogue as well. Control Warrior can also be a problem, but you don't see too many of those in the current meta. Mulligan-wise, going first and second, you're always gonna want your Gnolls and Cutlass. Blade Master Akani is also pretty important, especially if you already have a Gnoll in hand. Asheron Vessel can also be pretty good if you have Prep, or at least a Cutlass, so you have a shot at discounting it at least down to 4. Edwin I would honestly never keep in my starting hand, even though it does make some sense in certain matchups, I guess. Reconnaissance is a pretty good keep, and also Krakatoa, again, I have to have some pretty good curve already going for me if I'm gonna be keeping something like this. Extortion is gonna be always a keep as well. Gone Fishing could be a keep if your hand is literally perfect, like Prep into Asheron Vessel into Gone Fishing. Otherwise, it's probably not such an amazing keep, and I sometimes like to keep Shroud of Concealment as well, even though it could feel very slow in some cases. When going second, again, Cutlass, Gnoll, and Asheron Vessel become very good keeps here. Prep, I would keep if I already have something good going for my hand, like at least a tradable, you know? But if you have a Vessel, guaranteed do keep your Prep as well. Krakatoa becomes a lot more keepable, Reconnaissance is also pretty good here. Gone Fishing again, kinda same story like with the Prep, but you could even keep it without something good already, because it does give you some options for the early game. Akani is still pretty decent, and Extortion still makes the cut for me. Shroud of Concealment still feels like a decent keep in most cases. For other good rogue decks, we have the real Thief Rogue, which is running cards like Queen Ashara, like Death Greymane, Jackpot, and the Contraband Stash. We also have Quest Rogue apparently doing somewhat fine again. Mind Rogue can be pretty high rolly, even though if you don't get good stuff, you're gonna be dead in the water with it. So yeah, that's about it for Rogue. You have about 4 archetypes for it. Moving down to Hunter, and Beast Hunter is one of the best performers right now. I definitely prefer the 30 card Beast Hunter because it's a lot more consistent than its 40 card counterpart. In this list we're running the early game package with the small minions and K9atron, and those can be pretty awesome. If you get lucky and you have your Click Locker and K9atron in your starting hand, turn 1 you play the Click Locker, and turn 2 K9 becomes a 3/4, and it usually does summon an extra 1-drop, being either a Peasant, Click Locker, or Vicious Litter Spear. We have a couple of Doggy Biscuits and Ramming Mounts, so we can do some nasty buffing in the early turns with our good early boards. We have a single copy of Quickshot, which could be used as a late game finisher, so you can go through taunts like that, but you can also use it for some value trading, and very rarely for actual card draw. Harpoon Gun is obviously MVP, so you can dredge out some cheap beasts. Revive Pet is pretty good, especially if you don't have a ton of Hydrolon heads in the rest pool. Ambassador Phelan helps you shuffle a ton of usually Beast Colossals at the bottom of your deck, so you still have stuff to discount with your Harpoon Gun, for instance, or even pull out with your Sunken Asheron Saber. And the Asheron Saber is your only under 5 mana beast, so that's the only thing Pet Collector can summon, so that's a pretty good reliable way for you to pull the Asheron Saber in the first place, but also the Sunken Saber too, so it basically guarantees you getting a good pull out of Pet Collector. Blade Master Akani can be pretty wonky for the opponent, especially if you already have a good curve going in the early turns. Barracuda Bane thins out your deck, always drawing you Tracking, a 2-drop spell, and a 3-drop spell, being Revive Pet or Ramming Mount. These Stalker Tavish can be pretty awesome for you as well, especially if you already have a Mountain Bear in front, so you can do some doubled up emergency maneuver action, for instance. Or just be annoying for the opponent with a couple of improved secrets. Hydrolon can be pretty good, but also pretty bad if you actually pull it out with your Sunken Saber, for instance, because that way the heads don't have rush. But it's still a good amount of stats, so the opponent must answer it somehow. Mountain Bear is obviously good line of protection for you, but also pretty annoying to deal with because they do leave a couple of 2/4, so you're gonna be sticking damage. And you have good old King Crush at the end, which you could discount down to 6 mana, and you can also revive it a few times with your Revive Pad as well, so that can be pretty crushing. Matchup wise, here's what it looks like. Beast Druid and Prestor Druid can be annoying for you, as well as Mine Rogue. Quest Priest is actually a positive matchup for you, which feels kinda odd, because it does feel like they have too many answers for you, but then again, you also should be able to have too many boards for them as well. So as long as you don't get unlucky, you should be having a good time against Priests too. Mulligan wise, going first, K9 Tron and also Harpoon Gun would be your best bet. Depending on the matchup, Peasant also makes a lot of sense. Obviously, if you're against the Demon Hunter, you probably don't want to keep it. Blade Master Akani can be pretty huge if you already have some good early drops. Quick Shot, honestly, I don't see why you would be keeping it in the early turns. Vicious Slitter Spear is probably your best one drop, unless you already have K9atron, in which case Click Clocker also makes a lot of sense. Pet Collector is not a bad keep, but make sure to already have something to play in the early turns, like a 1-drop or a 2-drop at least. And Ambassador Phelan, he's a little bit iffy as well, consider if you really want those Colossals at the bottom, or you would prefer something a little bit more consistent. If you already have some good 1-drops going, Doggy Biscuit can also be pretty huge, and same goes for Ramming Mount, but try not to keep both most probably. When on the coin, again, the weapon is awesome, same goes for Saber. Click Clocker into K9, like I said, is pretty huge. Revive Pet, it's kinda iffy, like you already have to have the Saber to think about keeping something like Revive Pet. Tavish could be interesting, but I wouldn't really keep it usually. It really kinda comes down to the matchup, so consider if you really want that hero power or the Animal Companion, but you usually want the Animal Companion, honestly. Pet Collector is still pretty decent, and depending on the matchup, you should keep the appropriate 1-drop. For other good Hunter decks, we have Quest Hunter doing pretty good right now with the 40-card variant. We also have the 40-card Beast Druid doing pretty decently, and there are iterations of the Beast Hunter as well. Some do prefer the Naga package with the Naga's Pride and the Scribe, which also does pretty well, but that's about it for the winning Hunter decks right now. On the number 4 spot, we have Big Spell Mage still, which is a pretty disgusting deck because it relies heavily on RNG BS. In the early turns, you basically have a ton of reactive minions, so you can try and survive till you can go for the Belinda, into Barbaric Sorceress, into some random Rune Mage action or Darkfire Amulet. You have Spammy Arcanist, Varden Dawngrasp, Reckless Apprentice, all of which help you survive in the early turns. Deepwater Evoker gives you a ton of armor and a rune or a Darkfire Amulet. You have your Mailbog Dancer, so you can actually give your opponent a cheap spell, so you can later punish them with a Barbaric Sorceress if they're not careful. You have your Grey Sage Parrot, so you can repeat the big spells afterwards, and also Magister Dawngrasp, which doesn't really repeat any spells unless you actually played an amulet before that, because that is a fire spell. Matchup wise, here's what it looks like on a similar list, but we swap out one Spammy Arcanist for Bran. And as you can see, Quest Hunter, Murloc Shaman, Murloc Warlock, and Quest Warrior are gonna be problematic for you, but everything else is 50 or above. Mulligan wise, still let's use the same list, and when going first, Belinda, and second for that matter, Belinda is just huge. Same goes for Deepwater Evoker, because it's plus 9 armor at least. Mailbog Dancer is pretty nice, as well as Farwatch Post. Treasure Guard's not bad, Barbaric Sorceress can make the cut too, and Pelican Diver and Blade Master Akani feel nice as well. Amplified Snow Flurry can also make some sense, but as you can see, the win rate for it drops significantly. When on the coin, again Belinda, Pelican Diver, Mailbox Dancer, and Farwatch Post and Deepwater Evoker are gonna be the top keeps. Barbaric Sorceress still is pretty good, and Dawngrasp, Akani, and Amplified Snow Flurry are also acceptable, but everything else falls off short here. For other good mage decks right now, Mech Mage is still doing well, with a couple of Drakefire Amulets at the end, and there's still Ping Mage around, but as you see, the win rate for it is a lot lower. And the last deck on the list is gonna be Quest Priest, which is, to no one's surprise, a pretty disgusting deck right now. This list is not very populated, but it does have a pretty good win rate right now, so let's feature that one. The interesting inclusions in this one would be your Deep Run Engineer, which does give you some flexibility, and more often than not you will be getting the mana you're missing here, so you can continue with your quest, and same goes for Venomous Scorpid. Both can be pretty flexible for you, and they're also not bad cards on their own either. The rest of the deck looks pretty standard for what Quest Priest is running right now, but yeah, you basically have a lot of healing, a lot of control-y tools, and also a great way to fish out the shard at the end, with either your Thriven Shadows or even with your Sir Finley. For the matchups, again, I'm gonna have to look at a similar list, and from the stats here, you can see that Druids are not gonna be too fun for you, as well as Big Spell Mage, but everything else is pretty good. For the mulligan, you're basically gonna try to be curving out. And obviously your Deep Run Engineer as well as your Venomous Scorpid are gonna be great keeps for you because they're very flexible like we said. And Trapped Sorceress is also pretty good. Condemn might make sense if you're expecting some early whiteboards from the opponent as well. Korok can be a pretty good 4-drop, as well as Blade Master Akani. Thrive in Shadows is also not the worst thing in the world. Even though you would be preferring using it when it's time to fish out your shard, you can still use one in the early turns. And if you're already curving out, you might even consider keeping something like Spirit Guide. With Priest, there's even a Highlander Quest Priest out there, which is even more disgusting. And there's also Naga Priest, still above 50%, but not by much. So right now, Quest Priest would be the way to go. Boar Priest is still pretty disgusting in skilled hands though. For the classes we didn't mention, starting off with Demon Hunter, we have Fel Demon Hunter doing still pretty fine. There's even still a Keria list doing acceptably well, but you're probably gonna be better off with the lists without her. With Druid, Prestor is still pretty disgusting, same as Celestial Druid, Ram Druid is pretty decent, and there's also a Beast Druid doing fine right now as well. So if you missed that archetype, you might give this one a check again. For Paladins we have Mech Paladin still doing pretty good, Hand Buff Paladin is not bad as well, and also Holy Paladin should be a little bit higher on the win rate if you ask me, but this is what the stats look like so far. With Warlocks, Curse Warlock is the best performer right now, with Murloc Warlock being at a close second. Phylactery Warlock is also doing actually well, but the 30 card Curse Warlock does not seem to be doing too good right now, so there's that. And with Warrior, we only have Quest Warrior being a working archetype right now, so yeah, if you're gonna be playing Warrior, it's probably gonna be Pirates. So that's gonna be it for this top 5, guys. Hope this helps you figure out what you wanna be playing in the last days of the Sunken City meta. Don't forget to download Opera GX from the link in the description. Thanks for watching, I'm Kris05, and I'll see you in my next video or stream.